The inaugural F1 Academy season is in the books as they crown their first ever champion, and F1 heads to the land of the rising sun as teams touch down in CDMX for the 2023 Mexican Grand Prix. Viva! It is time. One of the greatest races of the year. Not the best track, one of the most fun events, and it's only because it's the only other race other than the U.S. Grand Prix that I've ever been to.
Hey,
so I'm biased.
That's a good reason.
You wanted to get into a little bit of the F1 Academy.
Yeah.
Who closed out their season at COTA. I caught a little bit of it. Like I was telling you, I didn't really have time to watch all of it.
A lot to cover this weekend.
Yeah.
With the sprint weekend and then the main Grand Prix. And so this weekend in COTA, they had the F1 Academy as the support races for the Grand Prix.
Yeah, no F2 this weekend, eh?
No F2. Their season wrapped up couple weeks ago. Yeah. So, but yeah, this was the first time we actually got to see them racing. This is they had, I think, 6 or 7 rounds before this one, all of which were not broadcast. It was very weird to me when they announced at the beginning of the year that this was going to be happening that we were only going to see the very last race on broadcast.
Yeah, well, I think the entire idea of the F1 Academy was a little bit of a shotgun idea. Like it just kind of got thrown into place. With the dismantling of the W Series, F1 really stepped up and threw this together, and I don't think it happened as planned out as they would have liked to. So getting broadcast rights and camera crew setups and everything in place for all of this, I don't think they could have done. I don't know when they announced that they got COTA squared away for the last race of the year to be able to broadcast that, at least on, I don't know if they did it on Sky TV and ESPN and everything, but it was on the F1 app.
Yeah, it was on Sky TV. I don't know if about ESPN stateside, but
I think it was just the fact that it, came together so late that they weren't able to broadcast all of it. But there was that, and there was also the Porsche Cup race this weekend. I didn't watch any of that either.
Yeah, no. But anyways, I was very excited to see what would be taking place here with the F1 Academy. So they're all running the Formula 4 cars. So. They're very simple in comparison to like the F1 cars. They're smaller footprint. They got smaller tires. There's no DRS, stuff like that. So very, very simple racing machines. I think that kind of, to me, it would have been cool to see them maybe with some more advanced machinery. I think the W Series car was closer to an F2 car, right? I'm not sure.
I want to say yes, or maybe somewhere in between like an F3 and an F2. But I think it was more powerful and more advanced than what the F1 Academy is driving. But I also think, and don't quote me on this, that the F1 Academy drivers are a little bit younger and less experienced as the W Series drivers were.
Yeah, so, and that was one of the things that they kept reiterating throughout the weekend was that a lot of drivers in the series are more junior. This is some of their first, for some of the drivers, this is their first like open wheel racing experience. Marta Garcia, who is one of the more senior drivers in the group, had competed in the W Series before, so she had already had some experience. So coming in, she was the favorite.
They don't even let Jamie Chadwick compete, right?
No, because she's already 3-time champion in the W Series, so she's kind of too advanced for the series. So. More focused on getting younger drivers, younger talent into the field. So different overall setup for the weekend for them. So they ran 2 qualifying sessions. So qualifying 1 set the grid for race 1. Race 2, they took that qualifying grid, reverse 1 through 8. So whoever qualified in 8th starts from pole. And so forth. Yeah. And then the race 3 goes off of the second qualifying. So the race 1 and 3 were both 12-lap races. So sort of similar to like a sprint race, normal sprint race we would see with an F1. The second race was only 8 laps. So with the reverse grid is very, very short. So every single race was pretty much like a sprint. They're all running the same tire compound. There's no mandatory pit stops. So in each race was just like a full on sprint.
Yeah.
And without like any DRS, without any of these like things to make it easier for them to pass, the racing overall to me was very, very competitive. Like just from the beginning to the end, you saw little battles happening all up and down the grid. So,
nice.
So like I said, the 3-race format, it was very interesting to see how the second race would play out with the reverse grid, because, as we were talking about last episode with sprint races being very much in question in Formula One, one of the proposed changes as to how to make it better was, instead of having like the sprint shootout for the sprint, having like a reverse grid from qualifying for the sprint race.
Yeah.
Like if they wanted to make it more interesting, just doing a reverse grid, that way you don't let some of the teams or drivers that are consistently qualifying really well and doing really well in the races just run away with it in the points. So mixing up the order a little bit allows for some more opportunity for someone who maybe doesn't qualify consistently at the top to be able to get some open track at the beginning. Right?
Yeah, I don't ever see F1 doing that. I don't see the teams ever agreeing to do that, because the teams at the top are going to say no. They're going to go, no, absolutely not. We've built this car to be at its peak performance, and deservedly so. It should be at the top of the ranks whenever it's driven correctly. Mm-hmm. And then the teams at the bottom, I think, will go, yeah, once we get there, we want those same rewards. So I just don't see that happening when there's as much money on the line as there is in F1. It's great for these lower series. Makes it a lot of fun to watch. Gives you a good insight of to who's an actual up-and-coming talent and who's just taking up space. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't see that ever transitioning into F1. I'd be willing to give it a shot on a weekend. I don't know if I would like it long-term, though.
Yeah, it was kind of cool. It did make the second race kind of interesting, especially when you're running 3 races. Mm-hmm. It is cool to see some kind of variance happen. Race 1 and 3 were actually different. There was different driver on pole. Marta Garcia was on pole for the first one. She ended up winning that race and had enough points secured after that first race that she got the championship.
Nice.
Second race for her didn't go as well. She ended up getting some damage in an incident during the race. Had to retire. We got to see Hamda Al-Kabasi get the second race there. I actually thought this was very interesting. She and her sister are actually on the same team. On the MP Motorsports team. So that to me was a very interesting dynamic, seeing siblings on the grid racing against each other.
How many drivers are on each team?
So each team there's 5 teams. Mm-hmm. Each team has 3 drivers.
Interesting.
It'll be changing next year, which I'll get into, but I did think it was very interesting to see the Al-Kabasi sisters racing together, because the commenters, they said during qualifying that there was quite a few times during qualifying this year that they would give each other a tow and kind of help give each other an advantage, which normally you would see that with teammates and playing together, but to see for sisters to be doing that, and how their just natural intuitions will play off each other and how they could work together. That would have been a cool thing to see.
Are they twins?
Not twins. One of them is older than the other. So
a little bit of a Sadine factor there, though.
Yeah, so that was kind of interesting to me. Some of the other more notable drivers from the series, obviously we had Marta Garcia, who won the championship, driving for Prema. She was in the W Series. She will not be returning next year, so I'm curious to see where she might end up.
Do they have a rule that's similar to, I'm pretty sure F2 does this, about...
you get 2 years.
Yeah, is that the same thing?
Yeah, so you can get 2 years in the series, and then you're forced to move on. So
gotcha.
Abby Poling is another driver who did really great this weekend. I think she was maybe 4th or 5th in points altogether, but she was a really strong driver. She's a part of the Alpine development team or project. Your girl Bianca Bustamante.
She was definitely notable.
Yeah, definitely. She had a little bit of a rough weekend. There were some glimmers, but she did get a lot of camera time, a lot of attention on her, because she's the first driver announced for next year. They announced that she's part of the McLaren development program, and that she will be driving in her car will be a McLaren livery next year. So
Oh,
next
nice.
year, they announced that next year on the grid, they will have 10 cars, all running, each running a livery from one of the F1 teams. So each F1 team will be supporting one driver in the series.
Wow, that's a big move. You have to imagine that some of the F2 guys who don't have academy ties, like Red Bull Academy, Ferrari Driver Academy, all that shit.
Yeah.
Young driver programs are pretty jealous of that.
Yeah. So it is, and it is cool to see how it will develop, because there will be another 5 drivers on the grid as well that will be from other teams. Currently, most of the teams are like Formula 2, Formula 3 teams. You got like MP Motorsports, you got Prema, Road and Carlin, stuff like that. So could probably see those other 5 drivers using one of those teams. So it is very, very interesting to me how this will develop. Obviously, with this racing format and these cars, it does allow for a lot of track time for them. With this 3-race format, they actually get a lot more track time than they would get in Formula 2. So it does create a really cool opportunity for, I think, all of the drivers, even just the people in the teams and stuff, as they want to engineers and stuff like that, as they want to move up through the ranks. Actually, one of the drivers, now I just reminded myself, Megan Gilks, I think that's how you say her last name. She's actually next year, this was her last race ever in her racing career, because next year she's going to become a performance engineer at Aston Martin.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So this is cool to see, a lot of young talent coming through this as a stepping stone into some of the other series and eventually maybe Formula 1.
I can't help but imagine that there's going to be backlash from the other series, that they're getting such a bias from the F1 teams.
Why?
Because you have guys who are either part of young driver programs or who have just been moving up in motorsport their entire lives.
Yeah.
Who aren't getting the preferential treatment that this new series is getting.
Well, I mean, the argument is that, because
I get it's an initiative,
yeah,
but it's if it doesn't go well, it's going to be compared to the WNBA like that. That it's just it's a money siphon, that they're supplementing the entire funding of it. All that shit's going to come their way.
Well, I mean, yeah, all of the drivers have to pay $150K each to be able to drive in one of these seats. So it's not like completely
sure, yeah.
But yeah, people could get upset that they're like F1 is spending money to build this program, but at the end of the day,
it's not money that F1 or the F1 teams don't have by any stretch either.
No,
I'm just saying that some of the I think the other series are going to get.
I know, but historically, a lot of those other series have gotten tons of funding, tons of money. So, and they've had a lot of time, a lot of history, of.
I would just imagine too that there's some of the other young drivers who are younger are going, well, why are they getting all this support when they, like you said, have less experience and are already older?
What do you mean are already older?
Most of these girls that are racing in this series are about 18 plus, right? And they're racing in basically an F4 car that younger drivers are driving at about 14 years old. They're moving
maybe
up from
in some
karts.
series, yeah.
Yeah, they're moving up from karts into F4 at about 14. So instead of investing in that, I'm just saying, I'm not making it a political statement. I'm saying that people are going to start.
But they already are investing in that. What are you talking? I mean, this is just an additional series, an additional thing that they're spending money on that's solely focused on women, because in all those other series, women only participate by it's like less than 5%.
Yeah,
so,
it's an initiative. It's getting them. It's a reason for them to get involved. I'm just saying, if it doesn't go well,
I mean,
it's going to get backlash.
What would it need to do in order for it to be deemed as doing well?
Be competitive. I don't know. I think motorsport is such a different beast than other sports, because you can watch any series of motorsport, and as long as it's good racing, it's exciting. So if this was a good broadcast, that's what I'm just saying that. If they can put a good product on, that's all that matters. But it's just the way it came about by being like an F1 branded thing. I think they might get flack eventually.
well, those people are boring and don't really matter. So, but anyways, I thought it was very cool, very promising for the future.
It's cool.
So,
I'm excited to watch it. I didn't get a chance to watch any of it. I'll pop it on as soon as we wrap up here.
Yeah. So moving on, this weekend we have the 2023 Mexican Grand Prix.
Yes, sir. Fiesta.
Going back to Mexico City.
Yeah. There's two big storylines, I think, going into this one, and I'll do the lighter of the two, I think, to get started. And that is that there's rumblings that both Ferrari cars are going to need power unit changes by the time the Grand Prix gets going. I don't know if it's going to be before practices, if they're going to use a practice to test where their units are at, but I just heard that they both weren't running too hot post-U.S. Grand Prix, and that they're looking like they could use a change, and I think that's going to get them past their allotted power units for the season.
Yeah,
so they might be taking a penalty on both. This is just what I heard. Probably a tweet where I heard it at, so who knows the validity of it.
Yeah.
But I could see it. I've been saying that somebody's going to need one come North America. I was hoping it was going to be Max Verstappen, but I think he might eke it out to the end of the year on this power unit.
Yeah, I haven't really been keeping track of extra parts.
Yeah, so, I'd have to look in. I'm just going off of what I hear here and there. But
okay, well, I know that this weekend it's going to be a big weekend for our boy, Sergio Perez.
This could be a make or break weekend for him.
I mean, he's had a rough go this past, half of the season.
Maybe so, even more, yeah.
Especially the last 3 weeks have been like just okay, not great by any means. Finishing in 6th, I think, last week.
Well, after the U.S. Grand Prix, after the penalties were given out, he finished P4.
Oh, okay. Well,
but P6 on the grid, yes. Like on track, he finished P6. He did move up a couple places because he started, P9, P8, P9, somewhere around there. So he had a decent race, and then I did see numbers showing that by the end of the race, he was putting up the same or similar numbers to Max, and that Helmut Marko actually praised him for it.
The Max that was having problems with his brakes?
Correct. So Checo's still in hot water. There was a big rumor, and I talked to you about it a couple weeks ago, that Checo was apparently going to announce his retirement at this year's Mexican Grand Prix. I don't know how much validity there is to that, but it got so big that he had to address it in an official press conference. Couldn't find where it came from. I don't know exactly. It was like in some weird Zoom interview, but a big media outlet. And I've always said, anytime there's smoke, there's fire. So I doubt that it's going to happen this weekend, but I think that's rumblings that it's a serious conversation. That should he not lose his seat, based on the agreement of the finishing P2 in the standings, that maybe they're going to force his hand, or that he's going to choose to just do this on his own come the end of the season. Maybe next year's Mexico Grand Prix it happens.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's a little too soon for him to just straight up retire.
I do too.
That to me seems like a little bit of a stretch, but I don't know. He's having a rough go, and then if say in the off season he gets the word that they don't want him back for the next year, where does he go? I don't really know. That is a big question for me. If he doesn't have a seat, does he just take a year off and come back? Probably not. I don't know.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to take a year off and come back, nor does he seem like the type of guy that teams are going to go to in the future.
Right.
He's just not at a place, for whatever reason, like it almost made sense when Nico did. Mm-hmm. Nico took almost 3 years off, and is sort of in the twilight of his career. He's on the older side of 30. But that kind of made sense. I just don't see it happening for Checo. He's got a big family. He's got...
here's the thing, too. Like, over the past 3 years, he's become such a huge star in Mexico.
Huge.
Teams that are looking at, like, Latin American market...
That could be a big
big
investment.
Big play, and he he's definitely shown that he can be a good driver in a lot of circumstances.
More than capable, 100%.
More than capable, so
he can win races in the right machinery.
Yeah, I think if he gets booted from his seat for 24, his career is not necessarily over, but it would be an easy way for him to just end it, would be to just retire and enjoy and ride off. But that's a terrible way to end your career, though, too. So
yeah,
I don't know. It's tough.
There's one team that I could see him going to, and I don't think you're going to like it, but let's say at the end of the season, Red Bull decides to part ways, and Aston Martin finally pulls the trigger on getting rid of Lance Stroll. I think that would be a great duo, Fernando Alonso and Sergio Perez at Aston Martin.
Yeah, that'd be pretty great.
As they further their development, they expand their brand with more investment into the Formula One team and just into the world of racing in general. Checo would look nice and green.
He would.
And it'd just be another great thing for the Mexican fans to root for because it'd be a little bit of an underdog team. He's always been a little bit of an underdog driver.
Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't fall off from, the grace of, going back to his home country one race a year for, there was a giant celebration when he signed with Red Bull, a top team. It was this giant moment of pride for the Mexican fans. It wouldn't be like a giant fall from grace where he'd end up at Haas and be forcing them to root for them,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he has... I think there's hope.
I think he finishes out the season by the looks of it, and they reevaluate some things in the offseason.
Yeah.
How do you think he's going to do this weekend?
Past 2-3 years, he's podiumed. At least
in Mexico, yeah.
In Mexico,
yeah. He was it a third in 2020 and P2 last year?
Sounds about right. So
2021. I'm sorry.
One of my predictions for this weekend is that Checo will podium.
Oof. See, I was thinking about going that route, but I can't bring myself to do it.
You gotta rack up as many points as possible. So,
well, I can't do just layups. I'm gonna go Max Verstappen. No. See, I was gonna go Max Verstappen doesn't win, but I can't. He's so dominant in Mexico that I just don't see that happening.
I mean, he's been dominant most everywhere. So
but I mean, Mexico, he finished the last 2 years by like 30 and 20 seconds. I'm trying to avoid going 3-team podium because that's boring. I want to go like something bold like George outperforms Lewis on the weekend, but I don't see that happening. I will say, how about this? I'm going to say Checo starts the race top 5. Checo qualifies top 5. I think that's about as good as I can give him. That's pretty generous.
Yeah, it's pretty broad too. So I think if you try to rank our points, I think it's in there.
How's that broad? It's black and white. He finishes 1 through 5. There's
1 through 5. Okay.
There's 5 scenarios. Yeah. I got 5 outs on that one.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. I think we're gonna see. I was gonna say a McLaren on the podium, but I want to be more specific. I'm gonna say which one. I'm gonna see Lando back on the podium. Lando podium streak stays alive.
Really shooting for the moon. Jeez. I'm going to say for my second one, I'm going to say Carlos outperforms Leclerc all weekend long. I don't think that's I think it's bold, but it's also not outside the realm of possibility.
No, not with how Carlos has been driving. He's been on it. I feel like I got to pick something from lower on the grid. I saw a thing that Alfa Romeo is feeling confident going into Mexico, and it could be a little more suited for their car. So I'm going to say Alfa Romeo in the points.
Okay. I'm going to go even bolder. I'm going to say both Aston Martins in the points.
Oh, okay.
Both of them.
Both. All right, Lance, it's on you, brother.
Oh, don't let me down, Lance. I need these. I think if you get 2 points, you'll basically wrap it up, I think, right? Mathematically?
I don't know.
I think so. I think that's how it would shake out. 2, maybe less than that.
Because we'll have 3 races left with 9 points available. So
yeah, just about.
Yeah, so that's crazy, man. We got 4 races left to go. Winding down here.
It's crazy to think that after this weekend, we are 1 race away from the Las Vegas Grand Prix. After we spent a year, prior to us actually doing this show, just wondering if that was even going to happen, just big rumors, and now here we are. Also, we're in the middle of a triple back-to-back. What do you call that?
Triple header.
A triple header. I love it.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. All right, this has been a quick one. Just a little pit stop for you guys. This has been the Into the Chicane Pre-Mexican Grand Prix. We will see you guys later on this weekend after the race. Peace.